The Ohio State Football Report by Chat Sports back with you, bringing you the latest with the Ohio State Buckeyes. And unfortunately, we're dipping our toes in the Michigan water. A little bit of Dave Portnoy, a little bit of Bryce Underwood. But we did get to hear from the coach today, Ryan Day, with plenty to say, some notes to take away from that. So that's what we'll get into today. Before we do that, a little bit of a college football sub battle. As you can see, so far we're doing okay, but we're going to need some help to beat the new guys on the block, Tennessee Football Talk. Of course, I want to take down Michigan. And the Alabama Football Report is off to a hot start, so be sure to subscribe so we can get into it with these other channels by Chat Sports. All right, yesterday a chaotic day on Twitter as we get an initial report midway through the day that the newest edition of Big Noon Kickoff, Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports, was going to be banned from the game, banned from the stadium, Ohio Stadium, this Saturday. And all of a sudden, that initial report from Front Office Sports, which was really being passed around everywhere, it's what ignited this whole thing. It's what had everyone saying Ohio State fans and the team itself and everyone on campus was soft. That was the big word being thrown around, soft. This was the initial report, right? And this just goes to show you we still live in a day where things can just spread and a rumor can spread and fake news, trigger word for a lot of people, can spread so easily. And the narrative was Ohio State is soft, Ohio State fans are soft, let Portnoy do his job, so on and so forth. Well, that lasted about 8 hours. I formulated my opinion. So did everybody else. I'm sure you did too. That lasted, I would say, closer to 8 to 12 hours. Then we get the real story, which is that Ohio State did not issue a ban on Dave Portnoy. Ross Dellenger of Yahoo Sports got to the bottom of it rather quickly. He figured out, hey, this was all Fox Sports. That Dave Portnoy is not on the main desk. He won't be on the main desk for any Big Ten games this season. So there was no ban from Ohio State. Word spread quick. Chaotic day. Not only is it Michigan against Ohio State in this one, you also had other college football fans saying, Ohio State's soft for this. I don't like Dave Portnoy either. I would ban him if he was rooting against my team. Back and forth and back and forth. I had a good time. I thought this was really, really fun. You get Portnoy, you get Ohio State, you get Michigan, you get college football fans, and you throw in a little bit of fake news. I think that's a really, really fun day for me personally on X. After all this, I think it's therapeutic, though. Once again, when you're dealing with Portnoy, when you're dealing with Michigan fans, drop down into the comments and leave a therapeutic FTTUN. FTTUN. And once again, here I will just say, we all know what that stands for. We know what that means, and you'll feel a lot better after you lay down that comment. Little more Michigan, just a little more. Hang with me here. They named their starting quarterback. It is Bryce Underwood. I think a lot of people, not just Michigan and Ohio State, but college football fans, know Bryce Underwood. And I think there is some good and some bad being paired with the idea of Bryce Underwood starting for Michigan when it comes to Ohio State and how Ohio State and Ohio State fans can look at this situation. So let's start with the bad news here. Last year, Michigan's losses came a lot from the quarterback play. It can all be drawn back to the play of, Davis Warren started most of the games. I think they had some interchange with quarterback at certain points with injuries and trying different things. I mean, Alex Orji also got his chance at the beginning of the season. I mean, it was just a chaotic year at quarterback. It's been so long. To have a capable quarterback for Michigan is such a big deal for this group. You almost feel like just to start off, you get that addition by subtraction, right? Having a quality quarterback over a bad one takes you so far. And then to have Bryce Underwood, the number one recruit in the 2025 class, extremely talented, good size, rocket arm, quick feet. I mean, everything Michigan wanted in a quarterback. And boy, did they work to get him. They wanted to change this QB room up quick. Like I said, Davis Warren saw a lot of time. He beat Ohio State last year in the shoe, so I give him his credit there. Mikey Keene transferred over, and you still end up with Underwood. I know there's been some injuries in that quarterback room throughout the spring, but it's going to be Underwood, and the bad news for the Buckeyes, once again, is a capable quarterback will be manning that quarterback position for the Michigan Wolverines going into this season. So that's definitely something to watch and could really boost them from the losses they took last year to a much, much better record. And that's the bad news for Ohio State fans. Before we get into the good news for Ohio State fans when it comes to Bryce Underwood, I want to let you know today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Football season is back, and so is Prize Picks. the best daily fantasy sports app, Prize Picks is the best place to win real money this football season. It's very easy to play Prize Picks as you just pick more or less on stat projections on 2 to 6 player lineups. If you get your lineup right, you can win up to 2,000 times your money. That's right. So $10 can turn into $20,000 with certain Prize Picks lineups. We made it to week 1, and when it comes to the Buckeyes, we've got to deal with all the names going on here. Arch Manning, more than a touchdown pass and a half. Jeremiah Smith, more than 49 and a half receiving yards. And Julian Sand, more than 1 interception. So that's a deal right there for you. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineups. Prize Picks, run your game. Link in the comments and description to get started today. We appreciate Prize Picks for sponsoring today's Ohio State Football Report. All right, we talked bad. Let's get to the good news when it comes to Bryce Underwood. He is a true freshman, still 18 years old. Young player, right? As young as you can get in college football. We know the Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith example last year. We'll also talk about an Ohio State true freshman a little later. But, I mean, this is a young, true freshman, 18-year-old quarterback that will have to play in the game, Ohio State and Michigan. I think this is good for Ohio State. This is a good thing in general. Let's hear from Sharon Moore on what he had to say about Bryce Underwood. He kind of acknowledged the youth, too. For a young guy, very mature beyond his years, still only 18 years old. He's going to make mistakes, but that's why we're here. Coaches, players, everyone's going to support him. So his coach understands for the first time Sharon Moore is dealing with a young quarterback that he has to not only bring along as a quarterback, but win gigantic games. Michigan has Oklahoma they have to deal with. Obviously, we just talked about they'll have to play Ohio State at home, but that's still a matchup in itself. Quick history lesson I want to add before we walk away from the good of Bryce Underwood starting. This is not actually the first time Michigan has started the season with a true freshman quarterback. This will be their 4th, so they've started 3 in that Ohio State game. Guess what? The Buckeyes, 3-0 when Michigan starts a true freshman quarterback. So I'm excited for that aspect, and I think Ohio State fans should be as excited about that aspect of the matchup also. Let's hear from you guys. Is Bryce Underwood starting a good or bad thing for Ohio State and Ohio State fans? You can type 1 if you think it's a good thing and you like playing a younger quarterback with inexperience, or 2 if you think, hey, this is the number 1 recruit in the 2025 class for a reason. He's starting these games for a reason. So 1 for good, you think it's a good thing he's playing. 2 for bad, if it's a bad thing. We did hear from Ryan Day earlier today. Good to see the coach on game week, right? That's always a good energy to hear Ryan Day speak. And I always know on game week he's going to give us some notes, especially still coming out of fall camp. We already know who the quarterback is. We got some good things to take away and bring with us to the Texas game this Saturday. A lot of talk about the defensive line in the offseason just because the Buckeyes kind of searching for answers a little bit there. We know the guys that would be there, but we want to know how good they could be. So Ryan Day, actually, we know the Edric Houston situation. We know the Caden McDonald situation. We believe those guys both could be stars for Ohio State on the defensive line. But there was a name he threw out there today when it comes to the defensive tackles that really grabbed a hold of me quickly, kind of shook me, and it was Jarquez Carter, the true freshman defensive tackle from Florida. He's a Florida kid that came to Ohio State. Yes, the Buckeyes could play a true freshman and give him some time on that defensive line. I think this is really, really interesting. And Ryan Day acknowledged, hey, we're going to use that whole group of defensive tackles, which we'll get a look at in just a second. But as far as Carter goes, he noted the idea that Jarquez Carter, he's got twitch to him. Whether it's going to be game 1 or down the road, these guys are going to help us. And the guys he is talking about, of course, Carter, he gave that full quote on Carter. But you look at Edric Houston, the starter, Caden McDonald, the starter. I think Will Smith Jr. has come along really, really well in camp. You hear his name often. Tywan Malone, and then Jarquez Carter. Same situation as Bryce Underwood. This is a guy that really, really young, looking to make his way into the good graces of Matt Patricia and Larry Johnson and the rest of that defensive coaching staff and look to make a difference for the Buckeyes down the road here. Other topic covered by Ryan Day earlier today, a little bit of an update on Brian Hartline. We all know Brian Hartline, amazing recruiter, a legend as a player, but now we have to get to know Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator for the Buckeyes. I think this is one of the question marks going into the season. I don't see it as a disaster or a major issue like Paul Feinbaum said, but I do think there's things I want to know about Ryan Day as he takes over play calling duties. And we got some fast track updates from Ryan Day about Brian Hartline today. He's going to call plays from the press box. Everything I've heard over the years, hearing about press box compared to on-field play calling and scheming, you get a better bird's eye view, of course. You can scheme things. You're getting a different look at the game, but you're out of the game. You're out of the atmosphere. You're out of the field from your players. So Hartline will call plays from the press box at least Saturday against Texas. Hartline and new defensive coordinator Matt Patricia went through a game experience simulation along with the rest of the team, but apparently this was one of the most detailed game simulations or experiences for the Buckeyes. Ryan Day really wanted this team specifically to get a feel for what it's going to be like Saturday, how they need to operate and make a plan going forward. And Ryan Day noted towards the end of this one, he still has veto power on play calling. He made a nice joke about how he hopes nobody records those interactions. He's the guru. He's always been a play caller, so if he thinks Brian Hartline's making a mistake, I have no doubt that Ryan Day, I don't know if there's a button on the headset that he just hits and it's a veto, or if he just says veto. I don't know. We'll see on that. But when it comes to Brian Hartline, I want to hear from you guys. Scale it for me 1 to 10. What is your confidence level in Brian Hartline calling plays for the Buckeyes? 1 to 10. Scale it. Let me know down in the comments. Closing thought on Brian Hartline. I know there's a joke going around on Twitter or X that Julian Sand just drive the Lamborghini, just drive it efficiently. This offense, right, when talking about the offense. I think it's Brian Hartline that has the keys to a brand new Lamborghini, to a Heisman-esque wide receiver, to the transfer that is the best tight end in the Big Ten, to a fully qualified offensive line, to a running back getting comparisons to J.K. Dobbins. I think it is Brian Hartline that has the keys to the car. Let's hope he doesn't crash it.